Welcome to the virtual lunch. Today is Friday, January 22nd, 2021, and this is virtual lunch number 224. Our guest today is Curtis Batterton, the legal operations and global technology manager for McDonald's. And thanks, of course, to Onnit for supporting this entire series of discussions throughout January.
I started with McDonald's about 12 years ago in IT as an intern in our enterprise architecture group. So that's working with a lot of PhDs. And they're brilliant people, and I didn't know most of anything that they talked about. So it was a great learning experience. I got to learn a lot about the inner workings of architecture and all that stuff. My first full-time role, I transitioned as a research analyst for our IT strategy group. So a lot of that was keeping an eye on current trends and emerging technologies just broadly, and then bringing back reports to leadership in IT to plant some seeds or evoke conversation around what can McDonald's do with those trends. How might McDonald's respond to them or adopt them? Those types of conversations, which was a great experience being able to talk with leaders early in my career to kind of understand how does IT leadership think and make decisions. In addition to that, I did a lot of market research to support the sourcing department that supported IT to do market analysis and landscape of different technologies and vendors out there. All of that really has proven very useful in my current role for the last 8 years or so. I've been working in the McDonald's legal department. I'm currently the technology manager in our legal ops team. In my current role, kind of managing the technology portfolio, in addition to a lot of change management. I would say most of my job now is more about change management and helping users adopt change that's imposed on them, because technology is always changing and people just have to come along for the ride. Before that, I had a lot of experience in the retail and customer service space, which also really kind of helps me anchor into always paying attention to the client experience. When you're serving a department that's serving the business of serving hamburgers, it can be easy to get removed from that customer experience and what's kind of the core of what we're about. You know, when I was working in the IT strategy group, we didn't partner, but we sat next to the IT change folks. And I would hear a lot of their conversations. I would be able to talk to them. And early on, I got exposed to this kind of change management methodology and what went into it. And it is something that I'm just interested in, because change is always happening, no matter where you're at or what you're doing. Change is, it's broadly applicable to a lot of different things that you do. People are so complex and fascinating and challenging. So helping people along with all kinds of change is really compelling and rewarding. First of all, I think it takes all kinds. I celebrate diversity and I celebrate people that have different focuses. And so I think the first thing I look for is people that aren't like me. I look for people that have different perspectives and are open to talking about that and challenging me and helping the group really get to the best solution, because I certainly have my opinions and I have my way of thinking about things, and I am often happy to share what I think about everything to anyone that'll listen. But I also recognize that I don't always have the best ideas. So surrounding myself with people or working with people who can point out the gaps in my own thinking or my blind spots, I find absolutely valuable and important to have around me. When I think about when I'm hiring for a position, you have to have the technical capabilities and skills, but I look for people who just sound interesting. I really enjoy talking with people that have a lot of experience. I don't know that there's one thing I look for, because I try to seek the value in the experiences that everyone can bring, but I definitely do like people who can help bring their unique perspective to drive to the best solution for everybody. First, let me say that everything I'm saying is my own opinion and does not represent McDonald's. COVID has accelerated everything. If we were on what I already felt like a pretty brisk pace of adoption and deployment of technology, COVID has really shoved us down the hill at a full sprint. I am happy to say that for McDonald's, a lot of our technology broadly was already in place to be able to respond and adapt to the pandemic environment. And a lot of that was precipitated by our move from the Chicago suburbs into the city. So we already had a lot of technology to be able to do virtual meetings. We already had that deployed, so people were already pretty much trained on it. The people who had the most problems were the people that were just resisting it anyway. They had no choice. That's typical in any change curve of the population. We've been moving to SaaS solutions for a while now. As the technology has became just interesting to talk about changing or a new need came up, one of the strategic priorities we've had is to move away from the on-premise model to a SaaS model so that we can primarily globalize our technology, but also facilitate the work from home model, which we were developing more and more as a business culture. We also have the element of social justice and the call to recognize the inequality baked into our systems and our culture in the US and elsewhere. But that's really put a lot of attention and focus on doing more with DEI work and paying attention to what we're doing and setting high standards for ourselves and holding ourselves to those standards. At McDonald's, the legal function was already paying attention to that, and we've been doing that for years, but I think we're focused more on it and we're going to do more with it. We need to figure out ways to accomplish doing that work with the limited resources that we already have. So that means turning to technology and what's out there. How can we leverage what we've got and what more do we need? Broadly speaking, I've been trying to figure out how do you make the business case to move to SaaS from on-premise. And depending on how the things are set up, normally the annual bill you get is just for the licenses. Then you go to a SaaS provider and you're like, okay, quote me how much it is that we can do this with you. And they're like, it's going to be 3 times more your annual license for on-premise. And you're like, I can't afford that. There's no way. So I struggled with that for a while. Years ago, what I realized was that we need to talk about in total cost of ownership, which includes not only the licensing fees, but the servers, the hosted infrastructure, the support staff, and then also look at the periodic maintenance cost to upgrade on-premise systems. And then there's integrations and some of those other ancillary things. When I started actually tracking our budget and recategorizing costs to attribute to, if we got rid of this on-premise document management solution, what's all the stuff that we could get rid of with that and then repurpose that money to afford the subscription? If you looked at it in terms of like-for-like capabilities of the tool and service of what it was, you end up better off in terms of value for money, which makes a compelling business case because the resources that remain, like my time, I don't have to focus on how are we going to schedule and manage upgrading an on-premise solution every 12 to 18 months. Part of the reason why we started partnering with Onnit, we're deploying an e-billing system, so they got in the door through that. But the strategic part of going with Onnit was that Onnit's a flexible workflow platform. You don't have to have a lot of infrastructure and I can deploy it anywhere. We've been looking to the aptitude part of the platform more and more to be able to quickly develop applications that just need quick response. Having that available to be able to respond has been a real advantage for us. The way I manage our budget is that we have the fixed costs, things that we're obligated to pay for every year and we have to have in order to keep our systems running. And then we have project costs. So these are the flexible spend for projects that need to get done, that are important to do, but might not be the same every year. When they come asking for money out of our budget, the only place it can come from is from project budget. And the fixed cost going up, it just erodes our project money faster. The way I talk about it to my boss is I say flat for IT is a 3 to 5% increase. If we don't continue to see at least that minimum increase over time of at least the fixed cost, then we're going to cannibalize our budget. And at some point, you can ask me to cut whatever you want. I still got to pay what I got to pay to keep the lights on. But most legal systems are big and complicated, serving lots of different stakeholders with different interests and different practice areas of law. So changing systems does not happen overnight. I can get frustrated with a vendor and be like, oh, I just want to rip it out, right? But then I'm like, and then what? Who do I have and how long would that take? It's going to take 12 months to redeploy everything and several hundreds of thousands of dollars of investment for that project just because I'm frustrated. That serves no one. In my relationships with my vendors, just overall, it's important that we be able to have open, candid dialogues about what is working, what's not working, and how we're going to fix it. I think the first best practice is to make the plan and then be ready to change the plan constantly. Pro tip number 2, when you're not face-to-face with people and it's harder to have those interactions, you have to communicate a lot. However, there is a balance. Because I'm often communicating messages to people that need to receive the information, but they are not interested in it. They know it's going to happen to them, and they know they need to know it, but they only have so much tolerance. Making sure I'm pacing the communication correctly in a way that's consumable and action-driven and brief. Right. Think about it a lot as we are building the plane as we fly it. We have all the parts strapped to our back. We just ran off the cliff And we are now building the wings as we're falling through the sky. Right? In a lot of ways, is how it feels. We need to get going first. And then as we understand our needs better, especially when it's something brand new, then we'll keep improving upon it. But it really is, let's understand our core needs. Let's not try to analyze this to death, and then let's get going. So,
Curtis Batterton, everybody.